So the first order of business is roll call. May we please commence roll call?
I think Daniela is running a couple minutes late. She said to go ahead and start anyway, but do you want to just take care of that?
Yeah, I can take care of that. So just say if you are present or not when I call your name. Jocelyn Bravo Wasan.
Jocelyn Bravo, our student trustee, cannot make it tonight, but here for President Kumar.
Okay. All right. So Anshu Nidam Munuri.
Yeah, here.
All right. Timothy Omen.
I believe Secretary Daniela has him on an excused absence.
Okay. Bayan Hamad Daila. Okay. Anita L. Adawa Anita.
Matthew, quick question. Are you looking at the meeting packet?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry. I don't have the official attendance form.
You're good, you're good. It's supposed to be from the meeting packet. I think you're just combining people's first name and someone else's last name.
Oh, I'm sorry. That must be an error on the packet then.
Yeah, it maybe is just the way that it's formatted.
Okay, so I have the correct list now. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning. So starting with the president, Wasan Kumar.
Here.
Vice President Hannah Ahmed.
Present.
Treasurer
I'm
Anshu.
here.
Okay. Chief of Staff Timothy Omen. Okay. Now with the chairpersons, Bayan Hamad.
Present.
Daila Al Adawe.
Present.
Tatiana Nadala.
Present. You call me Aitana.
Okay, thank you. Marian Udo Tuk. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of your last names.
Present, and it's Marian Udaituk. You're fine.
Okay, thank you. Michelle Zoe.
Here.
Okay. Speaker Daisy Stancevic is not present for this meeting, and so House Representative Abigail Penio.
Here.
Bembola Osveso.
Here.
Alfreda Roos. Alfredo Roos. Okay. Jada Nenji. Jada Nenji. Okay. Jocelyn Arianda Ortez.
Present, and it's Jocelyn Aranda Ortiz.
Okay, thank you. Kayla Taylor,
Present.
Malak Abdel Salam,
Present.
Matt Selvaraj,
Present.
Megan Bai,
Present.
Michelle Fernandez,
Present is Michael.
okay, thank you. Misty Villa Gomez,
Yeah, Villa Gomez, but here.
Mohammed Haj,
Present.
Mai Nijin,
Oh, it's me. But
me, I'm sorry, thank you.
yes.
Rohan Suresh,
Present.
Samprithi Vilvas Gamanani, okay, Sarah Khan,
Present.
thank you. Sarah Malik,
Here.
Tega O'Breer,
It's Tager Bire, present.
okay, thank you. Nina Henry,
Present.
Quentin Chrisman,
Present.
okay, thank you. Okay, the next order of business is reading and approval of the minutes. Please take this time to read over the minutes. Okay, are there any corrections to the minutes? Okay, the minutes will stand as approved then. The next order of business is reading approval of the agenda. Please take this time to go over the agenda. Are there any corrections to the agenda? Okay, the agenda will stand as approved. The next order of business is public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay, there's no public comment. We'll move on to the next order of business. The next order of business is guest speakers. There are no guest speakers at today's meeting, so we'll move on to the next order of business. The next order of business is the ex officio reports. May we please have the report of the advisor?
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I want to start off by saying thank you to those who've contacted their advisor for their academic eligibility form. And for those of you who started your first semester at UIC / our freshmen, I understand you wouldn't have a current GPA for eligibility. So with that being said, just send myself or Keith an email letting us know that you fall in that category, if that makes sense. If you are a freshman or this is your first semester at UIC, you wouldn't have a GPA right now because classes has not ended yet. So if you do fall in that category, please email myself or Keith just to let us know. Also want to go ahead and just shout out to you, Matthew, for being so brave right now and taking on this role for Daisy. So I know you're going to do great. You're already starting off doing great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, next we have the report of the student trustee, which I believe is not present here. So the next order of business is the office reports. May we please have the report of the president?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you again. And so again, like I hope everyone's had a great weekend and like midterm weeks isn't going too bad. But I know everyone's gonna do great. And so we've had a lot of like things going on like in the past week, and one of the biggest things was, of course, like our campus conversation on public safety, which we had on Tuesday, and we kind of coordinated speakers from like the Abolition Collective at UIC, the Black Graduate Student Association, the Black Student Union, as well as the like the various campus unions that we have, like the Graduate Student Union and the Faculty Union, as well as like ourselves, of course. And we spoke about like the importance of like safety resources, and we really kind of had like a whole like variety of panelists, as well as like a Q&A, and there were like hundreds of people that showed up, as well as like, of course, like important administrative people like the chancellor and provost, police chief, people from like the police safety board. And it really kind of like pushed the conversation on this. I know that there have been several teach-ins throughout the semester, but this one was very specific towards like UIC and very specific towards the administration as well. And it sparked a lot of like conversation and like the police safety board to like talk a little bit more about these sorts of programs and ways we can increase safety in this manner. And then I also like had a meeting with the Office of Government Relations to just kind of talk in general about like lobbying and student advocacy. And so right now, one of the big things that we're looking at is the sort of ongoing, and you probably all received an email about it today from Provost Poser, but it's about this like ongoing proposed like duration of stay changes that is like significantly going to affect international students. So we have, and Chief of Staff, like Timothy has also been doing like a lot of this. We've been like collecting public comment, specifically aimed at this like new regulation, and so we kind of talked a little bit about how we can kind of do that further like through OGR. And then I did some like admissions programming with Chancellor Emeritus to like kind of retain students in the state of Illinois. And one of the important things is like we do have like even more enrollment than we have had in previous years, but like our freshman class has declined like significantly. We're like seeing like a double-digit like drop in the number of freshmen, so it's like really important to kind of think about how that might play out in the future of like USG and then the campus as a whole. And then I like had a meeting with the director of the Global Asian Studies Department to talk specifically about something that we talked a little bit about last week, which is like this ethnic studies gen ed requirement that sort of like includes this like anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-xenophobic like teachings. And so she sort of like is planning on connecting us with the other like different chairs of the various ethnic studies department. And of course, like this is also like one of like the demands and like the letter of demands posed by the BSU and BGSA at the beginning of the summer. And so we kind of like are looking forward to pushing this conversation, because it does seem like it would be like a fairly like large project to take on. And then one of the important things that she also mentioned is specifically about how like the ANAPISI grant that funds all of the different Asian American programs on campus, whether that's like the Asian American Resource Center or like the glass minor and like the mentorship programs, like they're all sort of expiring this year, and how this is going to like lead to like a cut in funding. And so she sent us this survey that they've been putting around, and we sent it out last week as well, but I just want to kind of bring that back up. If anybody here like has taken a glass course or has used like the ARC for anything, or just in general, like kind of feels like they would like to support, like please do fill out the survey. It's going to help them make the case for UIC to kind of help pick up this funding for their program, which is already like a fairly like small program and doesn't really have too much funding to begin with. So it'd be super, super important to them. And then I had a meeting with Representative Taylor to talk about this like ethnic studies gen ed requirement. And overall, like we've got like some good plans as to like how we're going to sort of tackle this problem, like working with different like culture centers and other sorts of like student groups, and also like submitting a formal proposal like for USG and then later on for the Academic Senate in the coming weeks, as well as like a sort of like change to like the credit, no credit, and some sort of like universal pass system. And I spoke with Representative Obire to like sort of talk a little bit more about her experiences, as well as a lot of like her expertise that she brings from like the various like kind of campus units that she's worked with. And then specifically like to the proposal that we submitted to the Academic Senate, they have had like some movement. I think I talked about this last week about how it's like going to the various specific committees, but there's like a lot of pushback specifically from like various departments that have taken on like a lot of like purchasing of equipment to make this happen. So that's kind of unfortunate in the sense that like they've like spent a lot of money to doing something that's not necessarily very effective or positive. So we're trying to kind of like help them as well to like make sure that they like kind of see the need for this sort of change on campus. So I'll be there again like next Wednesday for the academic senate meeting to sort of like testify in front of these committees. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. What did they purchase to make like Respondus work?
I don't 100% know, but I know that it was some sort of AI. It was some sort of like artificial intelligence program. So some software that they purchased.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay. Next we have the report for the Vice President.
Hi everyone, good evening. So to start with, I will update you guys on the Mental Health Coalition work. I was out sick for most of last week, so if I haven't responded to your email yet, I apologize, but I will get to that later today. But we're still kind of functionally creating the survey to send to students to understand, again, their needs and desires and kind of how to implement those. And then a lot of you, as well as people from other organizations on campus, have responded with interest in being a part of this. So look for a meeting later this week to kind of touch base with everyone. And then we have also kind of started inquiring regarding campus care coverage of like online therapy services like BetterHelp. Just looking for the right person to contact that would have answers on those. And that is it on that front. The other projects are including kind of building a relationship with UIC Bonfire, which is the independent student newspaper. So I reached out to them and we are going to have a conversation later sometime this week to kind of talk about what they would want in terms of support from the undergrad student government, kind of keeping in mind that they are an independent newspaper. So whatever support that we give them isn't necessarily taking them under our wing, but rather just offering them a way to stay sustainable and a way to keep their work going kind of throughout the years. And we began brainstorming what an undocumented student resource center would look like. Furthermore, Daniela and I are continuing conversations about potentially purchasing vending machines for menstrual hygiene products that would be placed on campus. So that is interesting at a time like now where campus isn't at full capacity, but hopefully we are planning for a time in which it will return to kind of like normal function. And then the student government at the University of Illinois in Champaign has been unresponsive, but still working on trying to get the text for that particular resolution, and then continuing to kind of recruit different organizations and clubs to support Bayan's campaign efforts for getting UIC vaccinated. And then there was one other thing that I did want to share, and it was a response that we got from the Contact Us survey. So someone anonymously said that undergraduate student employees make less than the Chicago minimum wage, and this needs to change. During your term, I and my fellow students have not seen any change on campus. Student government at UIC is not very effective, and we all know that. But if you could do something about it, then that would be greatly appreciated. So obviously not exactly the best impression that they have of student government. And so there's two things, obviously addressing the issue that they brought up, which is how much UIC student workers are paid, and then also what are we doing to kind of make sure that that's not the impression that USG is getting, that we're ineffective and not really trying to change anything. But yeah, I would just love to hear like general comments about that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
Hi. So I was questioning for the anonymous one. So like, do we know how much they like got paid for, and like what is Chicago minimum wage? Like, I don't really know about that part.
Minimum wage in Chicago is supposed to be like upwards of $15. The pay for student workers at UIC kind of ranges from I think $10 to $13.
Yeah, just to like tack onto that, like after I got this email, like I did a little bit of digging, and so from what I understand, like yeah, like exactly like what Jerome and I said, like it's like 1350, and then the one thing that like kind of does change things is like from like the Fair Labor Standards Act, like you can pay student workers, I want to say like 75 to 85% of that minimum wage, which is why like you might not see the same amount as somebody who's like a student worker that works outside of the university. But obviously, I still think it should be changed.
Yeah, just going off that, why is it only allowed to be like 75%?
I mean, that's like some like federal level like lobbying. I don't really know the answer to that, but I would definitely want to look into that a little bit more.
I think because it's not just UIC, but I think part of it is that a lot of the students that are working on the university are doing like work study. So a lot of the reason they're working is because a lot of it goes back towards their scholarship. And there's that. And then also it's not just with minimum wage or like normal working jobs, like they're also allowed to pay less for like certifications and like certified jobs. Like the personal trainers on campus and everything, like they are allowed to they're allowed to pay a lot less than like standard wage for certified jobs too. So
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions or comments on the report of the
Yeah,
Vice
I had one
President?
thing. So to address the issue that the student had with, or whoever anonymously said that had with student government being ineffective, is it possible for us to send out like an email to the entire student body and ask them what they would like to see us do? Like, is that a thing that we're allowed to do?
Yeah, we can definitely draft an email or some kind of document kind of detailing that and send it out to the student body. We did something like that over the summer when we addressed the Black Lives Matter movement and the death of George Floyd and things like that, and that was able to go out to the whole student body. So we can do that. Yeah.
what if we did something like, because as a student that wasn't part of student government my first 2 years, my opinion, like my view as an outsider is like, I wouldn't say that student government was ineffective. It's just that I didn't even think of student government. And I think since UIC is like a commuter school, if anyone was like, how's your student government at UIC? I'd be like, I have no idea. Like, I'm not interested. Like, I literally wouldn't even think of it. So I think even if we did something as simple as like introducing ourselves like in an email, like, hi, we're student government, like these are the things we plan on doing this year or things we've done last year that, you know, we're continuing, something like that, just so students, I mean, then a lot of students don't even read the emails, but something like that, you know, I think would help. So
yeah, that's definitely something that we can put together. That sounds good.
I was gonna say, going off what Kayla said, having like send out an email, like I think that's a really good idea. Also, like I think utilizing our like Instagram page a little bit more, because I feel like people look at Instagram a lot more than like any other type of social media, and like to get a good following on there, just like a little introduction to like the board and stuff. I'm not sure if like we already did that, but like an introduction, and then then we can do like a poll and see like, oh, what do you guys want to see change, and then people can vote on stuff over there, and then we can like address it at our meetings.
Can I make a comment to that? So, hi, I'm Aitana. I'm the PRC chair. So there is a plan to introduce ourselves and have a post about welcome to USG. This is our board. However, I can only do so much, and I was waiting to create my committee first before doing and being more engaged on Instagram. So I hope you're more patient, because that is a thing that I'm planning to continue this semester.
Yeah, thank you, Aitana. So everything that we do have up right now has been large in part to Aitana's ability to get that up, and I think there's probably Aitana, you already have a form, right, for if we want to post anything or make anything clear on our social media, so it'll come straight to you, right?
Usually you can just DM it straight to the USG Instagram.
Okay.
And then, yeah, but I can make a form.
Totally your call. I mean, however you would best stay organized. And then also to everyone else, then it's also our responsibility to kind of make sure that we update Aitana on the work that we're doing so that she can post things about it. And then also if we just see other things that are going on at UIC, to kind of be a part of those. Like one of the things that came up recently are research studies. There's a lot of research that's being conducted at UIC, obviously, and there's a lot of opportunity for students to be involved in that research. And so if USG is kind of promoting the research and promoting those opportunities, sometimes some of them are paid, sometimes some of them get Amazon gift cards, whatever it may be, but kind of repetitively engaging ourselves with other things that people will click on or people will kind of further engage with also then helps in kind of branding ourselves as people that are involved in what's going on and not just this kind of separate body that's trying to do whatever it's trying to do.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions or comments? Okay. If not, next we have the report of the treasurer.
Hi everybody, just a short report from me this week. So we had our first committee meetings on Thursday. We went over external org funding and all the responsibilities of the committee. And we've started planning to reach out to external orgs. So anyone that knows anyone else in an external org that needs funding, that's affiliated with UIC, you guys can reach out to the Treasury Committee and we can work something out. Deputy Treasurer applications are due this Thursday, so I'll keep you guys updated on who gets that. That'll be all.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, next we have the report of the Speaker of the House. So Daisy is not present for this meeting, so I'll read the report. So yeah, Daisy hasn't been feeling well lately, and she got a few emails that were interested in becoming the interim speaker, and she thanks you for your interest. But she's decided to appoint me as to be interim speaker of the House. So please make sure you have access to Box. All USG members should have access to it. If you don't have access, yeah, just please check your email and try to log in, or feel free to email Daisy if you have any questions. So meetings with the representatives have been slightly postponed, but should happen hopefully late this week or early next week. Daisy plans to start with the members who did not attend the new member orientation, but she'll meet with all representatives eventually. Daisy is currently working on updating the strike policy in the bylaws. It still needs to be more clear and more structured. she met with Dyla and Tim separately to discuss the strike policy and will be sorry, could we scroll down a little bit? Thank you. So yes, she met with them separately to discuss the strike policy and will be having additional meetings with the e-board to facilitate further discussion. And finally, please make sure to submit your certification of academic eligibility form. It's required for all representatives in order to be in the USG. And the instructions were emailed to you last Monday. So yeah, get it done by next meeting. But again, if you are a freshman, email the advisor that you are a freshman. And that concludes the report for the Speaker of the House. If you have any questions, please ask the e-board or email Daisy. So are there any questions? Okay. If not, the next we have the report of the Chief of Staff. I believe.
Yeah, Timothy delivered his report to me earlier in the day, so since he's absent today, I was just going to deliver it for him orally.
Okay.
But essentially, he has been really looking at this new DHS regulation that essentially states that those who are entering on an international student visa, so an F1 or a J1, are required to stay for now a maximum of 4 years and no further than that for study or research. And those from very specific countries are only allowed a maximum of 2 years, so that very disproportionately affects certain students from certain countries that are traveling into the United States. So he's been working a lot with the graduate students who have formed this group called the ISSEO, who have been collecting public comments directly for the the federal government website. And then we've also kind of been thinking towards putting together a letter or something that goes towards this issue, either directly to OGR or more specifically to state representatives through OGR.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? If not, you can always email Timothy, I guess. So next we have the report of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee Chair.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. So my report is pretty quick. We're just continuing the work on the flu vaccine campaign. I still gotta read the email that you sent to me, Wasson, but we'll get to that. We have a meeting set up with the pre-health organizations. We met with them once. We're gonna meet with them again to update them. It's gonna be Wednesday. So I met with Graduate Student Council to plan Know Your Rights for police and protesting, and so they gave us a lot of they gave me a lot of information. I'm working on it, like who they want to be part of the Know Your Rights. They mentioned SJP, that's Student for Justice in Palestine, and BSU, that's Black Student Union, to collaborate with us. So I reached out to them and just waiting for their response. They also want to plan a town hall for students to find jobs during COVID, and especially tell them tips and tell them about how the field changed in terms of online. So they wanted me to reach out to Career Center and Career Services and Employment Office. So I will be doing that. And then lastly, we have a meeting set up with the Chicago Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation on Wednesday. And it's gonna be we're gonna be asking them to facilitate our Know Your Rights event for the Title IX regulations. And that'll be in the end of October, maybe beginning of November. We'll see. We have to plan more for it because we have to also reach out to Campus Advocacy Network, and see what their plan is. And lastly, I want to remind that committee members to fill out their deputy chair applications due next week, Sunday. And lastly, fill out the doodle form, please, so I can figure out what time for us is best to meet during the week. And that's it. I yield the floor for questions.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, next we have the report of the Legislative Affairs Committee Chair.
Hi, everybody. I hope everyone's doing okay this week. It is midterm week, so I hope everybody is maybe not prepared, but taking their mental health into account and is, being kind to themselves in this week and in the coming weeks, because I know that some of us don't all have exams this week and are spread out between weeks. So I hope everyone's, taking care of themselves. Last week I met with Daisy for a one-on-one meeting. We discussed the strikes, like she said in her report. Though that'll be, I think, an ongoing conversation that we have throughout the rest of the semester. So if anyone else does want to discuss strikes on e-board or in the representative body and discuss how those are administered, you can definitely reach out to me and we can kind of set up a discussion, or I just email back if you have any questions. I'm definitely open to that. The campus-wide letter for voter registration is planned to be going out. Well, I don't have a specific date for when it goes out. It's in Rex Tolliver's office, so we are just waiting on that to be processed. So yeah, I guess look out for that. I don't really have any set date that I've received. So my next thing was my first committee meeting upon looking at the when to meet that I sent out. That is going to be Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. I'll be sending out an email to my committee members as well. So if you didn't write it down, don't worry about it. It'll be in your email, like probably in 10 minutes because it's just in my inbox. So yeah, that'll be happening. And then I'll be sending out a meeting link the Friday morning. If you want to be part of the meetings and want to kind of hear what I've been doing for this semester, just let me know and I can make sure to add you onto that email with the meeting link, and you guys can join me if you feel so inclined. And then, yeah, I'm working with SLC. I have another meeting with Nikki planned for Wednesday. So we are doing a early voter day event with UIC, UIS, and UIUC. That's being processed. We're just reaching out to UIUC and UIS and kind of getting the details set on that. PERG is set to have another early voting day. They're going to be in a meeting as well. So that'll be something that happens in the coming week. And then we've gotten a tentative yes from SAB also having some early voter day events. These are all going to be events that are virtual and not on campus. So yeah, I don't have any like set itinerary for these days, but as the weeks go on, basically the next 2 weeks, there's going to be a like confirmed thing for those. If you guys do want to work, if any of the representatives or any e-board members do want to work on any of these initiatives, just kind of let me know and I'll either put you on a separate email or you can just join that meeting on Friday. I guess last but not least, something that I didn't include in my report was that I have been doing outreach for the Mental Health Coalition. We're looking for some new members so we can get more work done throughout the semesters. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, then DM me or Henna. And the Why We Vote video that I discussed last week, that is still in progress, and that will be out soon as well. I yield for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Next, we have the report of the Public Relations Committee Chair.
Hello. All right. So thankfully my health is getting way better. I had a intense fever on Friday to Saturday, so I was bedridden, and I decided to just stop everything that I was doing to take care of my health first and foremost. So I do apologize if the projects that we had and the collaborations we had were at a stalling point, and I did not tell you about it. I'm so sorry, but we're good now. I'm back, I'm active, and I'll keep on working on it. All right, number 2. I've started to upload some YouTube videos, such as meeting number 4 and the town hall. Surprisingly, they take such a long time because of the length, like 2 hours is a lot to upload on YouTube. So it's slow, but it will be there soon. Number 3, I sent a welcome to PRC email. I'm sorry that I sent it not as early as I thought, because like I said, I stopped everything. But yes, I've included a PRC document information listing all the login information, all the projects and their descriptions, as well as a clarification on what PRC's role is in USG. And then number 4, I started editing the Why We Vote video. I anticipated to finish it by tonight, but I decided to add closed captions for accessibility. Number 5, I set up a meeting with the Adidas and athletic department, and we actually did it this afternoon at 1 p.m. So we did a Zoom meeting, and he walked me through how to order, how to view it. It's actually a lot of process. Like, we gotta look at the catalog and then order it and then send it to another facility for logos. I think that'll take about 2 weeks. So we're gonna get that as soon as possible. And then number 6, thank you for sending in your profile pictures. They're in the process of being up on the website. Number 7, I have some changes to the resolution. I'm so sorry, but I was quite irresponsible and forgot to send the newly edited resolution to Daisy. So it's not included in the meeting, but I hope this works. I sent a link in the chat. Please click it so that you can see the changes that I've made. Number 8, I emailed UIC Red about incorporating a calendar on the website. They got back to me, they sent me everything. Now I'm just working with USG personnel like Daniela and Dahlia to figure out who is going to manage the calendar and what roles we're gonna have for it. That's a work in progress. And number 9, I was digging through the box and I got the PRC document from 2016. It's really exciting. We got Twitter and a lot of login information. So I'm gonna keep on tinkering with that. And it's pretty cool. And then last one, I emailed African American Cultural Center with my initiative about hosting a virtual art gallery in hand with the Title IX initiatives that Wasan and Bayan and I are doing. So that's about my report. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay. Next, we have the report of the Student Affairs Committee Chair.
Hello, everyone. I don't have a long report for this week, but first and foremost, I wanted to say Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. I hope you guys are informing yourself on the land that we currently occupy and its actual owners. I am also going to be sending out a questionnaire to committee members this week. It's basically going to include like what initiatives you guys want to have and like what plans that you want to achieve and like goals you want to achieve while you're in this committee for the school year. It's also going to be including a section for those interested in being a deputy chair. So basically it'll just be like a checkbox and then a list of like reasons why you want to be a deputy chair. And then from there, I'll decide who the deputy chair is. Hopefully I will decide by the end of this week, just so that we can have it all ready to start next week. I will also send out a doodle just to check everyone's availability for weekly meetings. Again, I'm probably going to figure it all out from your responses by the end of the week so we can start having committee meetings next week. And I think that's all I have for you all today. I hope everyone has a great week. Good luck to anyone who is still taking midterms like me. I'm happy that my professors like spread them out, but I've been taking midterms for 2 weeks straight and I have more midterms to go this week and next week. So good luck to everyone taking midterms. I hope you guys succeed and do well and take care of your mental health. I yield for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Next, we have the report of the Campus Life Committee Chair.
Hi everyone, hope your midterms are going well. So for my report, I sent out deputy chair applications last Thursday. So that means they're due this Thursday at 11:59 p.m. So my committee members, you should have gotten that. And if you're interested, please fill that out accordingly. Our first meeting for our committee is on Tuesday. We're still missing Sam Preeti. I haven't really heard from her yet, but until then, we're having a meeting with the people we have so far. It's Tuesday from 6:15 to 7:15. And even if you're not a part of Campus Life and you have like an initiative that you want to like collaborate on, feel free to like let me know and I'll let you join. And for care packages, we haven't gotten an update on the number of residents or anything like that yet. So I've been trying to brainstorm like what items should go in there, like I said last week. And since Aitana is still ordering the USG merch, I'm probably going to talk with her about like what we could include in there besides the USG face masks. And it would be nice to have a short message from USG included in there. So like if your committee has an idea or like if you want to like push a message, please let me know. We can work together on that to like support the students. Wellness Center FAQ graphic is also in the works. We got the responses back last week. So that should be out soon. And for the October events that we talked about last week, it's coming up pretty soon. So I'm trying to think of like a calendar of potential dates for these events that we could realistically like get done. And for the events that have prizes, I'll probably meet with Tim Bayan and Aitana to like discuss further what we could do for that and like how we can plan that quickly. And lastly, Wazan already talked about this, but don't forget to share and respond to the glass survey. I yield for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Next order of business is old business. First, we have resolution 2020-F1-402, which we will vote on tonight. So Atiana,
All right. So
may you please read it?
yes, of course. So actually, I sent in a link for the resolution, the updated version. It's in the chat. Could you please check it out? Okay. All right. I'm going to assume you click the link. Okay. So I've renamed this resolution as the purchase of COVID-19 related materials part 1 because I decided that for the face mask dispensers, there's a lot of options we can do. I mean, we can choose to mount it on a wall, but Timothy sent me a text earlier this week about purchasing a stand for it, which is more accessible and can be moved around instead of taking time and gaining permission from house to just install it and drill it within the wall. So I request that that be purchased at a later date. Number 2, I've calculated and got the shipping fees for the hand sanitizers. It's an additional $98 and I got the total at $1,023.55. As for the masks, I've found out the setup, which is an additional $50, the subtotal for the masks themselves, which is 3.3K, and then the sales tax, which is $206.25. Oh, there it is. It is coming up on the screen.
I'm like
technologically
struggling.
Okay, so it's on the second page. I'm on the second page. All right, thank you, Hannah. All right, so I'm at the mask section, and so sales tax, additional $200 or so dollars, and then the estimated delivery, if you buy it right now, is at October 30th. So in total, for the 1,000 face mask and the 1,000 hand sanitizer would be $4,529.80, counting the tax as shown within the item and the shipping for each item. So that's the new stuff on the resolution. I yield for any questions. There's a part 2, of course, where we purchase the stand, and I'm currently typing that up.
I have a question regarding the USG logo. So it comes with the mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yes.
company that we're
It
buying
is
it from,
not
they're
like the
doing it? Okay.
Yes. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments? Okay.
Oh, I do have one more question. What could be nice? I don't know. It's just a thought, but if we, with the dispensers, kind of put something about, or like obviously all of this information about the mask, but like there's obviously been research done about like what kind of masks are effective, which ones aren't effective, that kind of thing. But basically, like explain why this is a mask that is effective, and just have that somewhere for reference so that people know that they're using something that's like functional and effective.
Just to add to that, just to add to that, I think that it would be cool if like on the dispensers for the mask, we can put like a QR code, and that QR code can like link to a page that has all the information, just to make it easier to like get as much information out there as possible without like taking up too much space or like running out of space.
Link to COVID testing too if we're doing QR codes.
I agree.
All right. I'll be contacting you. Cool. I'll be contacting with you both after the meeting. All right? Okay.
Are there any other questions, comments, or amendments to the resolution?
I just have a comment about the QR code. So I'm in the Society of Future Physicians, and I'm on the Community Outreach Committee, and one of our initiatives for the semester is distributing information about COVID, and I think that would be a great collaboration with us, like possibly designing something that provides information and then giving you guys the QR code.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Okay, are there any other questions, comments, or amendments to the resolution?
Can I clarify? So just to clarify, the new resolution is just purchasing the hand sanitizers and the masks. Part 2 will be about the stand, and we can have a discussion about that.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick point of inquiry. Do you know where we would be able to store these for the time being? Or maybe like our advisors could also help.
Well, I sent the... All right, so when I listed the shipping, I sent it to the USG office, but then it did not occur to me that we don't have keys for it. So maybe I can ask Advisor Dre Parker if we can use the Dean of Students office to store these.
Yeah, that should be fine. If you just keep me posted on the shipping of the expected arrival date, that'd be great. So if I'm not in the office, I'm able to notify another staff member of the shipment coming in.
All right, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions, comments, or amendments to the resolution? Okay, if not, we will move on to voting. All those in favor of adopting resolution 2020-F1-402, please say aye.
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 All that opposed, please say nay. Does anyone abstain? Okay, the resolution has passed. So next we'll move on to resolution 2020-F4-903. So Daisy is not here, so I will read this resolution. So whereas the undergraduate student government intends to be inclusive and fair towards all members, and whereas due to COVID-19 pandemic, the meetings of the USG are held virtually, and whereas some USG members are unable to attend due to various reasons, including being located in different time zones, where the USG general body meetings are held at extremely inconvenient hours. Then, let it be resolved that the USG Executive Board shall hold international caucus meetings for the members who cannot attend the general body meetings. Let it further be resolved that there shall be a new section added to the USG bylaws under Article 12, Expectations, to reflect the change. The new Section 3 shall state the following. International caucus meetings. A. USG members who are unable to attend the USG general body meetings for valid reoccurring reasons shall be able to attend USG international caucus meetings. The international caucus meeting shall be led by the Vice President at a time that is convenient to those attending. C. The purpose of the international caucus meeting shall be to give representatives the opportunity to discuss and vote on items that are brought up during the general body meeting. D. Members of the International Caucus may propose amendments to resolutions, but these must be submitted before 6 p.m. Central Time on Monday of the meeting week. E. Only invited representatives can attend the International Caucus meetings. So, are there any questions, comments, or amendments regarding this resolution?
Hi, yeah, I had a really quick page. Michelle just said that she thinks that there's a second page. If you want to go through the rest of this, I can hold my question until.
Okay, yes, sorry. I'll continue reading the resolution. F. If a representative fails to attend both a general body meeting and an international caucus meeting, they shall be counted as absent. G. The international caucus meetings shall only be offered to representatives when the USG is operating on a virtual basis. Let it be further resolved that all absences till the date of this resolution's acceptance due to time zone incongruities are granted clemency. Let it be further resolved that due to the unpredictable nature of the pandemic, the Executive Board shall be allowed to make rapid changes as necessary by discussing plans of action with the attendees of the International Caucus meetings. So now I yield to questions, comments, or amendments to this resolution.
I don't necessarily have any amendments, but I did want to make a couple comments. I don't know if Wasan can further kind of further discuss these points, but my first point was, would they be voting on material after we discuss them, or would we be voting before, and would that be subject to change in regards to like when people can meet?
Yeah, I can try to answer as best as I can. But from how I understand, like most likely they're going to be meeting on Tuesdays. Most likely it's going to be during the day. And so because of that, like they are going to be voting on stuff that we've already voted on. So likely like the vote won't necessarily change anything, but of course like it does kind of reflect the opportunity for representation here.
Okay, so kind of following that, I would love to get somebody who is international currently that's coming to our meetings, like opinion on this. But I've had just a couple people that in passing I've discussed the international timings with, and a lot of people have been like, timings work for me, and you know, I want to be in the actual meeting and not a follow-up meeting. And this hasn't necessarily been in student government, but this has been in a couple other orgs. So that's the insight that I have going into this. I would love if a international student that does try to make these meetings could speak up at this point and kind of put in their 2 cents. It doesn't necessarily need to be like right now, but my second thing before I kind of let somebody else speak would be, I just think it's going to be very difficult for us to have 2 separate meetings and discuss the same or different points, because sometimes, let's say if I was chiefing a resolution and I'm on campus all day on Tuesday, I wouldn't be able to provide the insight of a resolution as properly as I would have in the meeting beforehand. So there's going to be a lot of things that come up from that. And I guess further in regards of that, the bylaws, I don't think there should be a clause that's in the bylaws. I think maybe this could be a supplementary document that's basically what we use as we're figuring out online meetings, but having this much, this amount of writing in the bylaws is a little bit dangerous because this is something that's subject to change. We could have a completely different system next semester, and then in comparison to that next year. And because we are in a pandemic, and I know that Daisy did bring up that it is an ever-changing world, just having all of this legislation added to the bylaws, which is something that is very concrete, isn't something that I would advise to do.
Yeah, I'm with you on the supplementary document thing. I think that's actually a pretty solid change that we could put together for this. With regards to the meeting itself, though, like you wouldn't have to attend. It would just be Hannah and then the other members that like needed said accommodation, and potentially our advisors if they have the time. But of course, I completely understand if they can't make it.
If I'm allowed to respond to that, Matthew?
Yes, you may respond.
I was just in regards to the second point. I just wanted to say, like, if I don't want to have to put Henna knowing all of my like resolution background in a second meeting, and then maybe some people don't feel comfortable about voting because they don't know enough about a resolution. So that's kind of where I was going with it, not necessarily, oh, I can't make it from that time to that time, if that makes sense.
That's a fair point. I think the other way to approach a similar problem would be to amend like what we define as like an excused absence. For the sake of clarity, right now there's only 2 people that potentially may use this whole concept and this tool. I don't know if that changes like your opinion at all. And even that one is like when they have a conflict for the Monday meetings, then they would approach like and go to the international caucus meetings. But if we somehow change how we were defining excused versus unexcused absences, or giving some other kind of leeway on that, that would be a functional way of addressing the problem, but obviously that comes with its own cons as well.
Hi, sorry, I just tried to raise my hand, but I didn't know how to. I had a couple of questions too. My first question is for the international caucus meetings, is there going to be a set number of people who can attend that meeting and that number won't change throughout the semester? Or is it open to anybody that can't attend Monday's meetings? Because I feel like if that's the case, then that can be a little bit problematic regarding like to quorum. And talking about quorum, since this meeting won't have quorum based on the fact that it won't have enough representatives needed to actually have an actual meeting, all the resolutions and things that are going to be talked about in the meeting, will the votes actually count since there is no quorum and then it wouldn't be an official meeting?
I can again like try to answer that a little. So from what I understand, the goal is to not allow it to be just open to anybody, but again, just open to like very specific to folks who have mentioned that they are not able to make it at this time, again, because of the reasons enumerated here. So really it would only be like 2 folks. And so beyond that, like if you had to miss this meeting for an excused absence, you would still get your excused absence. If you had to miss this meeting for an unexcused absence, you would get your unexcused absence. And then, I'm so sorry, Chair Onoda, could you repeat your second question?
Yeah, so it was just basically, it was in regards to quorum and like voting. So I was just saying, since this isn't an official meeting, like what would be the point of voting if the votes don't like actually count towards whether or not the resolution gets passed, if that makes sense?
I think it still gives the opportunity for members to propose amendments, because you would propose that before this meeting specifically. So everybody would get the meeting back at the same time. Folks would be given the opportunity again to propose amendments. And then yes, like you're saying, right? And like what I'm saying as well, like your votes technically wouldn't have the same amount of impact, but it would still be impactful in the sense that you would still get an opportunity to see what's going on, work on what's going on, and still have a voice in student government.
Also, it should probably be mentioned, but all the representatives that would be attending the International Caucus meeting are also have expected to have watched the meeting from Monday. And then also if I guess voting is a concern, since we present the resolutions and then vote later, it could be, we could adjust it so that their vote is cast within the same time frame as everyone else's, and then the meeting is for them to kind of express or vocalize their thoughts, basically.
If I'm allowed to comment, I wanted to bring up a portion, like something that is probably not going to be seen in the best light because it is COVID and people were sent back home without being asked. I know I was sent back home without, being willing. But upon application this semester specifically, we did tell everybody that our meetings were going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. on Monday. And that was something that we were not lenient about in the beginning when we did have these applications. I just think that some students applied or wanted to apply to this and said, it's going to be 4 a.m. my time, or it's going to be like dinner time that time, or I'm going to have a class, so I'm not going to apply. And I think putting this in our bylaws is going to say, well, I have a class from 6 to 7 p.m. And I am an international student, so can I still make the international caucus meetings? So I think it does also bring up that discourse of just I can't make the meetings versus it's 4 a.m. or it's 3 a.m. And I don't know. I feel like to some it wasn't fair for when they were applying. They already knew and they were like, okay, this isn't something for me. And now that we're changing it, it's just going to be, it's like, well, where was this when I was applying?
I have a quick question. Sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand. Matthew?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. I had understood that not only international students were using this option, right? Like, are there national students that are also thinking about missing some meetings, some general body meetings, and using the international caucus? Or is it only for international students? I'm a little bit confused.
So it's like if there is a recurring reason that you cannot attend, then you would have the option, since we were making it available for international students anyway.
Yeah, then I kind of agree with what it was just recently mentioned, because then it's a little bit unfair with everyone else, because I know, like, for international students, we are making the exception when this people are like put to an extreme decision. But if it's something more like, oh, I have a class or something, then it's a little bit more unfair for other students. But I also understand that if they're already part of our group, might as well kind of give them the opportunity to continue to be. But yeah.
Yeah, just to that point though, we did talk about this in cabinet meetings, specifically the point of application and the point of kind of like what Dahlia had mentioned earlier, like where was this when I applied? Like I did bring this up when everyone was applying, and I did mention that I would love to see a sort of accommodation process for everyone, but we sort of decided that it might set a little bit of a precedent that we didn't want, that these meetings were optional, which they are not. So kind of like moving forward, like what Daniela is saying, like if you are somebody who has sort of like gone through this process to get onto USG and you now need some sort of accommodation, I think that that definitely is something that's like an avenue that should be explored, or could be considered at the very least. If there are alternatives though, I would love to hear them.
Thank you. So Representative Quinn has his hand raised. You may speak.
Yeah, so I think this idea is great, but so if there's a problem with it, are people saying that we should amend it, or we should just not go through with it at all, or what exactly is the solution if this isn't the perfect system? What is a proposed solution otherwise? Because like I think it's ridiculous to ask people to wake up at 3 a.m. to attend this meeting. Like as great as this meeting might be, it's 3 a.m. and they have like other things that they need to do, sleep mostly.
Hi, sorry. Can I say something? I don't know how to raise my hand on this meeting, so I'm sorry if I'm like speaking out of turn. I also agree with you, Quinn. Like, I don't think anybody should wake up at 3 a.m. to attend a meeting. I think that's crazy. But I will say, to Dahlia's point, I did have people send me emails saying that they were interested in joining USG, and when they learned of the times of the meeting, they did drop out of the application process. And so I do see where Dahlia thinks it's kind of unfair, where people applied, knew the meetings, and then we're trying to like change something, whereas for other people, they saw the time of the meetings and they chose to not continue applying.
So Representative Quinn, you have your hand raised. You may speak.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the only problem that I have with that is that if we don't pass something like this, then those people can't join next semester because we're still online next semester, right? So if they can't join next semester, then they have to wait an entire year, and I think that's worse. Like maybe there's an argument maybe to postpone this until next semester, but I don't know if I like that either. But yeah, I would like those people to be able to join at some point.
Chairwoman Dyla, you have your hand raised. You may speak.
Yeah, I would say then the best thing for us to do currently, and again, I'm a board member, so this, is not my choice, but I would say this isn't something that we put into the bylaws, and we make more of a secondary document that says you need to schedule a follow-up meeting if you were unable to make the 6 to 8 meetings. And we would have to specify that it needs to be due to specific constraints. If we want people to be able to show up to student government meetings who have class from 6 to 7 or 6 to 8 or whatever it is, then we need to make it clear that they are allowed to join and they are allowed to follow up on those secondary meetings. If we only want it to be people that have to sleep at 3 a.m. because they don't want to be in a 2-hour meeting at 3 a.m., then we need to make it clear that it is only for people with international time differences.
Thank you. Are there further questions, comments, or proposed amendments? There is also the option to table this resolution if we are not too sure if we want to vote this in. If someone wants to motion that. Otherwise, we will move
I'll
on
motion to table, if that's okay. Like if I'll motion to table if anyone wants to.
Seconded.
Yeah, just so that we can, I don't want to postpone this. I think that this is very important for people to be able to do. My only concern is that like if there is an issue with people not liking it for some reason, then we should change it in some way. That's the only concern.
Chairman Dyla, you have your hand raised. You may speak.
Yeah, real quick point of information. Wilson, I feel like you would be able to answer me best on this. But if we table it, we would still be discussing changes to the bylaws, but next week. However, if we vote it on or off and it gets voted off, then we would then be allowed to make a secondary legislation document based off of the votes. Is that correct, or?
Yes. So actually, I was about to table right before Representative Kurzman did. But one thing that we could do that might be like a better compromise would be to table this for now, and then for us to meet everyone who's interested in this specific legislation and seeing this sort of accommodation through to the end. And then we can always come back to it next week, and we also can vote it down and then introduce something new next week too. Like that's always another option. If you would be open to that, like definitely would love to have like everyone at the table like sometime later this week to just kind of talk this through.
Okay, thank you. So, I'll ask again, if someone wants a motion to table this.
Would anyone like to second my motion to table?
Okay,
I'll
do it.
Second.
Okay, so this resolution has been tabled for the next meeting.
Oh, just a point of inquiry, like should we vote on said tabling motion? Chairman, interim chairman.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, sure. Just like was wondering if we would like vote as a body on tabling.
Yes, so so yeah, we do need a 2/3 vote, so for this resolution to be tabled. So those in favor of tabling this resolution, please say aye.
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 Those who oppose, please say nay. Does anybody abstain? This resolution has been tabled. Thank you, President Kumar, for correcting me on that. So next order of business is new business. There is no new business, so next order of business is items for discussion. We'll start with campus-wide grading policy change.
Yeah, thank you so much. I introduced this item for discussion specifically because we had been talking, so this is like from the summer, I'd say, with Provost Poser about proposing some sort of grading policy change for the fall semester, just given the fact that the COVID pandemic is still very, very active and not a whole lot has changed with regards to like studying and classes overall. And so it seemed like she was like not in favor of this then. And more recently, like this has kind of like been part of conversation in the academic senate. And I would like for us, like as a student body, to sort of, as a student body representative organization, to propose some sort of campus-wide grading policy change. But I kind of wanted to like just open up the floor for discussion to like see like what we might want to include in that, and also just to get as much like if anybody is interested to like get them like on board in terms of like writing and actually like putting this on paper. I had a meeting last week with like Representative Obire as well to specifically talk more about like our vision. But yeah, that's about it. I just kind of opened to the floor from there.
Chairwoman Zhao, you have your hand raised. You may speak.
Thanks. I just had a question. I think you said last week that she was kind of against the credit, no credit. Is she also against the universal pass?
Yes, but I honestly don't know if that has changed like in recent times or not.
Okay, thank you.
I think the holdup for her is like not knowing. Basically, if we're taking on the responsibility of changing the grading policy, then we should also be changing or taking on the responsibility of informing students what opting in or choosing whatever, however we do it, how that would affect their applications to grad school or even for like employers and things like that. And I think the only way that we can really combat some of her fears about that is if we actually reach out to, I don't even know who it would be, or if it would be like a small sample size of grad schools and employers to see what their opinions would be. and then that way you can kind of make a case for, okay, you have fears that are rational, but here's actually how they might play out. And chances are most employers or grad schools are not going to have an answer to that yet because they're still figuring it out like the rest of us. But it's worth having that conversation, I think.
Thank you. Chairwoman Viola, you have your hand raised. You may speak first.
Yeah, my, I guess, two questions would be, would this be a U of I systems change? Because I think the grading policy is pretty universal for all of the U of I systems. And then my audio cut out a little bit, so I'm not sure if you brought this up, but how involved is the student trustee with this? Because that might be something that goes a little farther.
So, does anyone have any replies, comments to that?
Yeah, I could try to answer that question. We are not looking for a systems-wide change, just a change specific to our Chicago campus. And so like as a result of that, like Jocelyn is like not particularly involved in this, but I could definitely consult with her and kind of see a little bit more about like what she thinks and how we can kind of go forward on this.
Thank you. Representative Kayla, you have your hand raised. You may speak.
Yeah, I was thinking like it along with the concern of like the possible concern of this of like students not knowing how it could affect their grad school applications. I think also, and she might not know, so this might not be a concern, but of how it will reflect on UIC and like our statistics. I feel like it might improve it, if anything, because I think like most students would keep the grades that they like. I wasn't here last semester, so I don't know how that works in detail, if it's like per class or as a whole. So yeah, so I was just saying like that might be another concern that we would have to address when we addressed it.
Thank you. Are there any comments or replies to that?
Just like from what I understood from last year, for like a little bit more context, it was like an opt-in system where you could choose for your course to be credit, no credit, which is a little different than like what you have because like usually like you're not allowed to take like your major required courses or like most courses really for credit, no credit. And then the other thing in terms of like grad institutions that have actively said that they would not like accept this sort of thing, there's only one that I know of. And that's Harvard Medical School. So I don't know if there are a whole lot of people that are applying to Harvard Medical School, but I know that that's the one that does not accept unless you're looking at like a sort of blanket policy that affects the entire university, which is what we're asking for. So.
Yeah, wait, I'm sorry. Does anyone else have their hand raised?
No one has their hand raised. You may speak.
Thank you. I would, okay, so if Harvard has kind of come out and said that they would not be okay with something like that, unless, of course, like students don't have that individual choice and it's a blanket policy, you still don't know how that blanket policy would then affect their like that student's application. And this is me kind of being devil's advocate for the purpose of discussion, but from the provost's opinion, regardless of if you have one student or 100 that are applying to Harvard Med School, the chance that their application would be detrimentally impacted because of a policy that you put in place, that would be enough to then not want such a policy.
Yes, Representative Quinn, you have your hand raised. You may speak.
It's also an optional thing. Like you don't have to take credit, no credit. So like if you are planning on applying to Harvard Medical School, you can choose not to do it. I think that's a pretty fair thing. And like also making it like very like I think that it's very important to make it very clear to students that like, hey, this could potentially affect your applications to blah 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 blah, if that's the fear, right? Just making that very obvious, and like you have to like sign a like electronically sign a waiver that says like I'm okay with this. Then I think that's not a non-issue really.
Representative Michael, you have your hand raised. You may speak.
Hi, does anyone know if this would be through the graduate programs at UIC too, or just undergraduate?
I do not have the answer to that from just what I understand, like of our body specifically. Probably just undergraduate, unless there was any kind of like extension that needed to be added.
Okay, because I know like one of the head of the nursing was saying she doesn't like it because then people might slack off and their scores will be less, so they'll be less accredited.
So in the chat, Representative Me, you have something to say, so you may speak.
I talking to my academic advisor like 2 days ago, and she said that like it wasn't really necessary something that how to say. So basically, uh, every single semester you're allowed to have one class that is like uh, credit, no credit, and it's basically like for the class you have to take at least the general course or something. It is not applied to your major. I think that is like something that we should consider about like if it's not like applying to your major like directly, it's just like general course that you have to take in to like graduate, then you should like consider credit, no credit one.
If I could say something, I would agree with what me said. So if you were to like take a credit, no credit in like a class that doesn't really apply to your major, while it's still maybe detrimental to your entering upon a graduate program or getting a job, it wouldn't affect you as much as if you got a credit or no credit in a class applying to your major. However, I do understand the Susan Poser's concerns just because it does tend to let students feel like they can slack off if they have a credit, no credit class. And then also having too many credit, no credit classes on your entire transcript does look bad and doesn't make you as competitive. And so I understand Susan Poser's concerns about trying to have UIC students be competitive in the working and graduate field.
Any replies or comments?
Yeah, I had a question. So kind of in response to Representative Crispin's earlier comment, this is a question, I think Lawson, you would be able to answer it, but if we did like a blanket policy, like a universal pass, would that be something that students are opting into, or would that be kind of implemented by the university as a whole?
Yeah, so the system of universal pass, which I guess I'll just explain like a little bit further, what we would specifically be asking is that every single student on this campus be guaranteed an A, B, or C for the entire semester. And other college councils and like SGAs have also kind of proposed the same idea and kind of like pushed for the same idea, again, on the same grounds that like nobody kind of comes into this pandemic prepared for the unnecessary like changes that might take place in like learning, and at the same time like no one goes into like a like college like during a pandemic with the intention to fail or like slack off. Like you want to like work hard. But that being said, like yeah, so that would not, like if it was that model, that would not be opt-in. What they did, and exactly like how Representative Obiri just mentioned, there is like an opt-in version of that, which would be like CRNC.
Thank you. Chairwoman Zhao, you have your hand raised. You may speak.
Yeah, I think right now UIC has like a form that you can fill out, at least for engineering, I think, where you can like drop class and you can like meet with your advisor and stuff. So like I think if students are like able to get informed, and then like if we have enough like disclaimers or fail safes to let them know what this might do to their applications, I don't think the people who are suffering because of the pandemic should be lumped in with the people who are who might think that a universal pass is an excuse for them to slack off, because some people actually do. Like, I don't think we should let them suffer just because some people might take advantage of the opportunity.
Thank you. Are there any replies or comments?
There's also an option of perhaps presenting something like this to professors and like department heads. So more on like an individual level. Like for example, the College of Engineering, if professors really feel like their ability to teach is being detrimentally impacted by the pandemic, then they are more than welcome to make it a part of their syllabus that students get like a universal pass. The credit no credit might have to be more of like a system change, but there is that option to kind of make it a campaign part or like targeting professors to encourage that change and that understanding, as opposed to trying to fight the provost if we feel like she's not going to respond in kind.
Thank you all. Representative Taylor, you have your hand raised. You may speak.
I think the biggest difficulty with like a universal pass in majors like engineering, for example, is that like if you get a pass in a class, that means that you can move forward. And for students that the professor like actually felt didn't deserve a pass, shouldn't be able to progress with the classes, that can really like affect their career. I feel like my dad's an engineer and he talks about how he had to take some classes like 6 times just because he couldn't, you know, like you had to take all these classes and it's hard from what I understand. So I guess playing devil's advocate again, like you just were, but yeah, that was my only like concern about that.
Thank you. Are there any comments or replies? Does anyone want to say anything more about the campus-wide grading policy change? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the ethnic studies general education requirement.
Yeah, thanks again. So I added this as an item for discussion, specifically because we were looking at including ethnic studies, like one of the courses from the 4 ethnic studies departments, as a gen ed requirement, sort of to be part of like one of the demands from the demands letter written earlier this summer by Black student leaders that aim to have some sort of program on campus to provide a sort of like anti-racist, anti-homophobic, anti-xenophobic education that we should have, sort of like round that out. So Representative Taylor and I like have like met like last week to sort of talk about this and like meet with some of like the leaders of the various departments. One of the main reasons why I added this as an item for discussion is because I did want to get like more buy-in from student gov, specifically because we did kind of see this as like having like needing a lot of sort of community buy-in and a lot of like different student organizations involved to really kind of like put pressure if this is something that was like were to go forward. So that's just a little bit of like why I kind of added this on. But if anybody has any thoughts, like I'm all ears.
So I guess I just have a devil's advocate approach here. It's not like I love this idea. I think it's great. But I think there could be an argument for like we already have a foreign language requirement, right? And like that teaches you about other cultures. So why is this necessary if we already have that? I don't agree with that, but it's probably a question that will be raised.
I think that's a really good like a really good point. Of course, like we do have a lot of gen ed requirements right now. Foreign languages doesn't necessarily like teach you like about like histories of like struggle or like systems of oppression or like marginalization both in this country and like globally, but it does definitely expose you to culture. Ethnic studies, of course, like it is like really all about the activism, whether you're taking a course in Black studies or you're taking a course in LALS or you're taking a course in GWS or global Asian studies. It's really like all about the sort of like interdisciplinary approach.
If I may add on just for some background, it would be this requirement would be more specific, and it wouldn't just be like any ethnic studies program. It would be like like a foreign language for example, teaches you about other cultures outside of the US. So like, but this specific gen ed we would essentially like have to go through a lot of stuff and figure that out, but it would be more specific to the US. So yeah.
Chairwoman Zhao, I saw your hand was raised. Did you want to speak?
Oh no, I got covered. It's fine. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I think Representative Me had something to say, and then I had something to say after that as well.
Okay, so Representative Me, you may speak.
So for like the language, language part, like for example, I am like an international student, so it wasn't required for me. So like it was like right off the bat is out for me already. So I think that like it can be substitute for student who like me who doesn't have to study foreign language, or like for you guys have this local student, we can maybe make it like a optional. Either you study a foreign language or you study the ethnic study general education. I think if it's like necessary to do so.
And I just had a general question about how you guys feel about the foreign language requirement anyway. I mean, I know like personally, I do speak 2 different languages, but the second one that I speak is not a course that's offered at UIC, therefore I'm still required to do the whole foreign language bit. But like if we think that, I guess first of all, the question is what's the purpose of the foreign language requirement? Is it to give us a skill that would be helpful later on in our careers? Or is it kind of like what Lawson was saying, to have that cultural exposure and to really broaden our horizons? And if it is more the latter than the former, then perhaps we don't even have to create a whole new gen ed requirement, but rather like a way to kind of get out of doing foreign language if you take like an ethnic studies class specific to the requirements that you guys want, obviously. But I also then don't want that to be like, oh, you can take a language and then get out of those like ethnic studies gen eds. But like, I don't know, eliminating the language requirement maybe for favor of something like an ethnic studies requirement. Kind of radical, but worth discussing, I think.
Thank you. Representative Malik, you had your hand raised, so you may speak.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of go off what Hannah just said. Like, I think if you already like, I speak 2 languages as well, and like I think if you grew up in a household where you had to learn one, you had like your primary language and then you had another language, I don't understand why at UIC we have to take another language for up to 4 semesters, because like if I'm already comfortable learning like with the 2 languages that I speak, like why would I have to take another one that I would stop learning within like a year and then like never go back to it? You know, and I think it's a really good idea to like maybe if you do already like speak 2 languages or another language, or like you've completed like the requirement, instead of having to take another class with your language, you could take this ethnic studies class, which could teach you about the background of where your language comes from or something like that.
Thank you. Representative Petanillo, you have your hand raised, so you may speak.
With going along with the foreign language, the requirement at UIC is multiple semesters of a foreign language, and I feel like ethnic studies would just be a 1 semester class. So figuring it out, if someone's coming in without AP credit or say a biliteracy credit, how making that equivalent to a certain amount of semesters a language requirement has, matching that up with an ethnic studies requirement, because ethnic studies I don't think would be more than 1 semester, whereas a language would be.
Would anyone have a reply to that?
again, the only other thing that I can think about is if I don't know if part of the reason that languages are required is because it's a graduate school requirement. I would have to look into that again, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. Representative Taylor, you have your hand raised, so you may speak.
From my understanding, are you able to test out of this requirement? No? Wait.
Unless you're an international student, I think.
You are if it's a language UIC offers as a class.
Okay. All right. So I just want to say I am all for trying to eliminate this. I'm not a native Spanish speaker, but my mom's side is Colombian, and so I grew up with Spanish. But it was, and I've heard this from non-Spanish. I've heard this from students that speak Arabic and have had to take these classes, where it's like kind of just not helpful. I think especially for people that have grown up with the language because of the way it's taught. And I think because we get Spaniard Spanish and not the kind of Spanish that we would actually speak in the US, it really confuses people. And then maybe we can even like talk to students, get a lot of student feedback on how effective these languages, like language classes actually are, both for students that are familiar with the language and then coming in at like the first, like Spanish 1 or 101 or whatever language they're taking. And then I think also teacher feedback, because I think once students aren't forced to take these languages, they'll get like students that are actually interested in taking the languages and then try harder and then are more interested in speaking it. So yeah, I think both students and teachers would be enthusiastic about this. So
Thank you. Representative Chrisman, you have your hand raised, so you may speak.
Yeah, so actually there's like it's not a peer-reviewed study or anything, but there's a couple studies online that just they basically show that like people who have taken the like requisite 2 years of a language in college know almost nothing about the language. So it's not teaching you really that much, and I honestly think just taking like having a requirement of just like 4 ethnic studies courses would probably be better for people to have be less awful to each other. But like I would love the idea of completely reworking the entirety of the general education requirements at UIC. Like I know that's like not exactly the conversation we're having, but I think that that's something that would be a positive thing for UIC as a whole.
Thank you. Representative Ambimbola, you have your hand raised, so you may speak.
Yes, I was just wondering, has anyone heard about whether we're coming back like for winter break or not? Like after Thanksgiving break, are we going to come back on campus or are they requiring us to stay home?
I can speak to that if that's okay.
Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, so we are allowed back onto the dorms as far as everything that I've heard. Specifically, the reasoning behind that is just because we are such a huge commuter school. Practically everybody who goes here is a commuter. It's like 80% of the students. So most of the student population that's still on campus to this day are again commuters. And so it's like fine for people to like go home because most people are going home every day.
Thank you.
Oh, also, if you don't mind me also answering Representative Chrisman's question, they actually have been running a program for the past 2 years or so to revamp gen eds. And the provost also had like various like student advisory boards and the such, and there's like a whole report that they put together, which is part of why we're asking for this change now, because like there's already been conversation about change and there's been a plan put into place for change. It's been sidelined temporarily because of the COVID pandemic, but it's a perfect time, especially with everything that's going on and it's sort of like push for racial equity.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments or replies or anything they would like to add on to this discussion? If not, the next item for discussion will be moving on to the certification of academic eligibility. So Daisy has again said that this has been extended to next week's meeting. So if you haven't yet, please email your advisor and ask them to just verify that you are academically eligible to be a part of the USG. Or if you are a freshman, please contact our USG advisors to let them know that you are a freshman, that you don't have a set GPA yet. Representative Ambimbola, you have your hand raised, so you may speak.
Yes. Once we get the paper filled out by our advisor, who do we send that to?
You send it to one of our USG advisors. I think on the form it has
It says
their
okay.
emails.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much.
No problem. So does anyone have any questions or concerns about this? If not, the next order of business is announcements. Are there any announcements?
Hi, yeah, I just had a quick one. I just want to say congrats, Matthew, on running your first USG meeting as interim speaker. I think you did a great job, so kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yay.
So with that said, I would like just like a little bit of feedback for like how I did as the replaced Speaker of the House. I know at the beginning I butchered majority of your guys' names. I'll be honest, I noticed that. So yeah, I'm always improving. So if there are no more announcements, the next order of business is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved and second to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Does anyone abstain? Okay, the ayes have it. This meeting is now adjourned at 7:53 p.m. Thank you, and everyone have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.